What if the thing holding you back isn't a lack of talent or opportunity, but the way you think about your own life? Welcome to I Have Questions with Michael Ruland. That's the question at the heart of part one of my conversation with Ezra Vancil, an award-winning Americana and folk rock artist whose music feels, carved straight out of lived experience. Ezra's songs are about his discovery and his story. It's just not accolades. It's his journey. And his newest project, Morning and Midnight, is a double album paired with a book of poetry and journals. It's a deeply personal exploration of creativity, family, struggle, and a long road back to being yourself. In part one, we're going to talk about the traps our thinking sets for us, the power of action, and how rebuilding a life sometimes starts with rebuilding a studio or even building a cabin in this case. So Ezra's going to open up about stepping away from music, losing almost everything, and the courage it took to return to his craft after years away. This conversation is about fear and healing and the moment you decide to step forward no matter what. Are you ready? Good. Because
I have questions.
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 I'll tell you the food that doesn't have questions, which I do.
All right, troops, as promised, today's guest is an award-winning Americana and folk rock artist, songwriter, producer, father, cool dude whose work feels like it's, carved straight out of lived experience. Ezra's music has earned recognition from Kerrville Folk Festival, the International Songwriting Competition, and Richmond International Film Festival, with songs that have been featured on VH1, BBC, and the Discovery Channel. His newest project, which is Morning and Midnight, is something I really love the idea of. It's not just about music. It's a double album that's paired with a book of poetry and journals. And, it's just this deeply personal exploration of creativity, family, struggle, and a long road back to being yourself. Ezra's here today to talk about, the traps our thinking sets for us, the power of action, which, in his world is building a cabin while building a new life, and the courage it takes to return to your craft after a few years away, and some lessons learned from making music alongside his daughter. I just want to introduce, and I'm so happy to talk to Ezra Vancil. Ezra, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Mike, I'm doing wonderful today. It's a little bit warm down here in Texas, but I'm nice and cool and glad to be here with you.
It's always kind of warm in Texas, isn't it? I guess it depends on where you are. It can get wintry as well down there, right?
Yes, it could go both ways. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank goodness for air conditioning, and we're both inside enjoying air conditioning. So Ezra, you ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready. Let's
do this, huh? So, I before I introduced here, we were talking a little, and I was sharing with you that I've become a little bit of a geeky fan of yours. I love your music, but I want to start with an idea that I read from you or about you. I don't remember things like I should, and you said that thinking could get us stuck and action is what really changes us. I think I got that quote right. What are you thinking about that statement? And then when did that truth first show up in your life?
It's a lived experience thing because I am a thinker. I will just gnaw on something forever and not do anything about it, whether it's something I want to change or a project I want to do. And so it's not that there's not some place for thinking, but I think that I thought that my thinking could change the way I acted or performed, where really it's the other way around. I found at a point in my life that I just needed to start acting the part, start doing the thing, and let my thinking kind of change that way through the action instead of trying to figure it all out, lay out a plan and everything. Just go into it with action. And it kind of informs and changes my thinking, because a lot of my thinking is has a lot of fear in there, and
Yeah.
a lot of things that want to keep me from doing or being what I want to be. So I don't totally rely on it. I rely more on just stepping forward and doing the action and letting that kind of change me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had a old boss who used to always say, and I won't lie, at first it used to drive me a little crazy, but his saying was analysis paralysis,
Yeah.
right? And over the years, I came to understand it and agree with it, right? We do analyze things until we become paralyzed, and
Mhm.
to your point, it, actions sometimes that they break us out of that.
It breaks us out. Yeah. Yeah. If I could share a quick little
Yes.
place I got stuck just recently, because my life has gotten really busy. I'm making a new album. I'm trying to release this one that you talked about and play shows and make a living. And it was just getting where I was just waking up and just kind of like fumbling through my days. And so, and I just kept going back to trying to figure it out, actually get out paper. Like, how can I figure out how to do all this stuff? Where what I really needed to do was something I did was I reorganized my studio and my house. And during that, what I just knew I needed to jump into action, and I knew something at least that had to be done because this was a mess. And as soon as I jumped into the action, it's funny that all these little ideas of these little roadblocks I was having with my schedule, I started getting ideas, and things started being solved just by me just being in action instead of just sitting there and trying to figure out my life. It happened while I started just jumping in there and doing what I could.
Yeah, I wonder if it's a bit sometimes of you're kind of you're solving a problem that you probably didn't realize you had a little bit, but we're still thinking about it, right? Like the clutter around. I find that I like clutter. it's
I did too.
it's my thing, and but in the same breath, the clutter causes, something I 10 years ago would have never even knew what the anxiety meant, right? But the clutter causes anxiety, and it causes me anxiety. And so as much as I think I like clutter, the act of cleaning it up actually
Yeah.
declutters my brain, right?
Yeah, it's as I use that because it's kind of an analogy of that. If my
Yeah.
brain is cluttered, let me go do something I know that I can do in the physical world, and it decluttered my brain at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think maybe that's why I've I'm sure it's not. I just like your music, but maybe that's why I really, when I started listening to your music, I like, oh my God, I like this. We think alike.
Mm, I thought
So
so.
yeah. So I want to take us back, and now that we've kind of got the big idea here going, to something where you have been a performer most of your life, I think, from what I've understand, but you stepped away from music for quite a while, I think, and after some rough times and rough shows. And so I'm wondering, we all we all kind of go through rough patches, and people listening live those experiences. What was happening inside of you during that time where clearly something you loved was something you decided to step away from?
Yeah, I stepped away from music is more torn out of my hands. It's just life. Just sometimes it just takes the stuff that you love, and I couldn't hold on to it. But I was going through at the time. I was having some major substance abuse problems. I was wrecking my entire life. Nearly lost my life, and really not only my music but my family, everything I loved, job, everything I loved in life. It just kind of collapsed. And music was one of the first things to go. as you mentioned, I had some just bad, when you mix a bunch of problems with alcohol and substances and get on stage, some things can go wrong. And I had some bad shows and nobody wanted to play with me anymore. And so it really was just kind of collapsed. There wasn't a decision to put it down. But I'll tell you what's kind of cool. I was actually probably bitter that it was taken away. What was cool though is when I started getting better and I decided like I'm not going to live like this anymore. I didn't go out and try to get music back.
Okay.
It just came back to me, and it came back in a whole different way. Like it used to be something that I used, like to show that I was something in the world, I wanted it to make something of my life. And when it came back to me, when I was getting better and getting sober and all this, music came back as a friend of mine. And I just started just plucking and enjoying it. I think for the first time since childhood, just for itself, just to sit with a guitar and to pour my feelings out. And so I'll say one thing is it was actually good that some things collapse because they can be reborn. It had a lot of problems, my relationship with music before it collapsed. And when it came back, I had this whole new relationship with it. And now I just, I don't need the fame. I don't need all that. I just need my guitar and I need to play it. I need to express myself somehow.
So, express yourself. You kind of rebuilt yourself, right? And so, can you remember the first time that you walked back on stage after those years of having it ripped away? And how did that feel? Or did it, I guess, did it teach you anything about fear or what was the general Ezra feeling?
I remember the first show back on stage after years of not playing. And I did that new relationship also kind of healed a lot of like stage problems, fright, nervousness. Even though I've played my whole life, I still would like battle that. And I would, drink something or something to make it go away.
Yeah.
But now here I was stark sober on stage and all those feelings came to me. And I just was able to be in a new place and go, I'm afraid, I'm nervous, but I'm going to do it anyways. Where in the old times, previous to all this, that would affect my performance where I somehow, and I still do this, allow stage fright, nervousness to be with me, but do my performance anyways. Almost like we're talking about with thanking, where I'm like, okay, you have your place, but you can sit over here while I'm going to play. And so, I remember the first time it was actually at a mall. And so I wasn't just playing to the crowd in front of me. It was a huge mall with people walking around.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a shocking thing to get back into music after years.
Yeah, a little different, I bet. Yeah. It sounds like you were back in the 80s with the mall concerts of like Tiffany and those.
I've heard of them. That was a little before I was performing.
I don't think you missed out.
Tiffany. Yes, I remember Tiffany.
Yeah. I was a product. I guess I was in college by then, but that was the big thing. So, so then let's kind of push through that, and now you've started back up, you got going, and you started releasing albums or creating albums and projects. How long have you been kind of, let's go Texas, back in the saddle, as they say, of performing?
I could tell you exactly 13 and a half. Well, since performing 12 and a half years.
12 and a half years.
Yeah. It took me about a year just to start repairing my life. And then music came back. And that was 12 and a half years ago since my first show back at it.
Awesome. So you're now in deep, up to your neck, right? Yes. So let's so got a little bit of your history down. Let's jump to the present. So Morning to Midnight. Tell us about it. I mean, like I introduced, it's a double album. It's poetry and journals. It sounds like it's a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is my life all bundled up in one package because I sat down to work on an album after some previous albums, and I was going to write, use a period of my life during this kind of rebuilding. My wife had filed for divorce. We went through all this divorce, and I started writing an album during that time, and that was 10 years previous to making this album. And it was just too sad. We got back together and we worked things out. We're back together, but I put all those songs away. So Morning and Midnight started as me going, those were good songs. I'm going to put those out. But what happened is when I started working on those songs, I started writing songs about right now, about my life as it is right now. And so it became kind of this, two sides of the mountain, two sides of the coin, kind of the dark side and then the side, the light side. And I say it's all of me because I also drew a lot when I was young, and I pulled some pencils out and I drew the artwork for it. And I started going off into the forest. I live in a small forest here, and writing poetry in the morning. And so it's like in journaling. And then I just said, oh, I got all this stuff. And it became Morning and Midnight, it's kind of the story of two sides of a decade.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Classic A and B sides of the album, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, I guess is yeah, I'll ask, is there a part that really feels closest to your heart? Like, is it the morning part, which was probably the hard stuff, or is it the new stuff, or is it the art, or is there a little part of this that you're like, that's it, I that's me, that's why I did all of this, was for this one part?
It's the book actually that feels closest to me, and it's a book of poetry and journaling. And the reason it does is, so this book, I didn't mean to do this, but I call it like a record of the emotional landscape of making this album and all that was going through my mind about these songs and these periods of my life. And so it was really neat to write. I didn't write really poetry before this. I learned to do it during this time, and I did little practices to learn. And so the book is real close to me because it's the first time that I've put out a lot of albums that I've actually documented what I was going through at the time and kind of dug deeper than just the song, but what's underneath that? What's the stories beneath that? And so when I look at the whole project, I love the albums and how they turned out, but the book is very special to me.
Awesome. I like the idea that, like you said, that the book kind of is the roadmap through the album a little bit. That's cool. Because as a non-music guy, I'm always so curious about the act of writing songs and putting them together. So that's where we'll wrap up part one of my conversation with Ezra Vancil. Today, we explored the idea that thinking can trap us while action can free us. And Ezra has showed us how that truth played out in his own life, from losing music to rediscovering it as a friend, from fear on stage to performing sober with a new kind of courage. This first chapter is all about rebuilding from the inside out. Next week in part two, we're going to dig deeper into Morning and Midnight, how that double album came together, why poetry and journals become the emotional roadmap of this project, and what it means to create from both the dark and light sides of a decade. We also talk about family and collaboration and the lessons learned from making music alongside his daughter. So, if you've enjoyed this conversation, please like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment. It helps more people find the podcast, and it helps keeps our community of curious humans growing. Thanks for listening. We'll see you right here where curiosity leads and questions follow. Oh, hey, P.S. Before we close today, I want to take you to a place where the sky feels impossibly wide, a place Texans talk about with a kind of a quiet pride. It's West Texas. Out there, the horizon doesn't just stretch, it invites. Travelers say the sky looks bigger, the stars look closer, and the sunsets feel like they're painted with colors the rest of the world forgot to use. And maybe that's why so many writers, wanderers, and dreamers have found clarity in that landscape. One of them was Georgia O'Keeffe. Long before Georgia O'Keeffe became famous for her New Mexico paintings, O'Keeffe lived and taught in West Texas. She said the land changed her. That endless sky, the open plains taught her to see differently. Out there, she began experimenting with the bold shapes and sweeping lines that would define her career. The landscape didn't just inspire her art, it actually expanded her perspective. And that's the historical consequences we often forget. What Texas didn't just shape is cattle trails and oil towns. It shaped imaginations. It gave people the room to think bigger, feel deeper, and reinvent themselves. But here's the part that sparks my curiosity. Why does it change in scenery help the way we think? Maybe it's because wide spaces create wide thoughts. Maybe it's because perspective isn't something we find. It's something we step into. So as you step away from this episode, please carry this with you. Where in your life could you make the horizon just a little bigger? And if you did, what might you see differently? Peace, love, R.